Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. It's your host, Matt Zahab. We are buzzing as always on this lovely morning in Toronto, folks. It's getting a little nipply. I'm not loving this cold weather. And my guest is located in one of the hottest places in the world, one of my favorite cities in the world, the one and only Dubai. Time for the intro. Super pumped to have Hugo Philion on the show today, a globally recognized speaker and thought leader. He is the co-founder of Flare and CEO of Flare Labs. We will get right into Flare as soon as we start this show. But until then, Hugo has done literally a little bit of everything, has one of the most fire Twitter accounts on all of crypto Twitter, has been pretty much on every single publication possible, and has done it all. He is a big anything cloud, anything validators, anything EVM smart contract. He's done it all. A true crypto vet. Hugo, welcome to the show, my friend. Super pumped to have you. How you doing on this lovely, I guess, evening for you in the one and only Dubai?
Hey, Matt. Thank you for having me. I'm really well. Still a bit hot, but getting better.
Yeah, a little toasty in Dubai. I've never been to Dubai in the summer, only from the months of, I guess, October to March. It's absolutely lovely, but I have heard it's a little bit of a battle, a battle in the summertime. It is true that most people, at least from what I've been told, sort of just work in the summers in Dubai. It's like the opposite of everywhere else in the world, where the summers aren't for partying and playing. It's literally you're in your home or condo and you're just hauling ass and working, and then everyone goes out at night, enjoys the beach at night and all that kind of stuff. I've never taken part in that before.
Yeah, it's 36 Celsius at night, so it's beach weather.
I love it.
Ain't about the sun.
Yeah, beach weather, sun. I absolutely love that. Look, you and I are recording on Wednesday, September 11th, and by the time this episode airs, it will be Monday, the 16th of September. The big news of last night was the presidential debate. I didn't watch it. I had some things to do, unfortunately. I did catch the best clips on Twitter this morning. I'm sure you did as well. Did anything stand out to you besides the obvious Trump talking about dogs a lot and Twitter saying that Kamala may or may not have won the debate? Did anything else stand out to you there, Hugo?
I mean, I guess I try not to comment too much on politics, but I think, it was an interesting one. I didn't watch it. I watched, obviously, the clips. Clips are edited highlights. So they come with an intrinsic bias. I think the thing that stood out for me was, you see one candidate who has a lot of organic, natural support, won the leadership contest within his own party. And you see another candidate who's looks like a bit of a layup. So
100%.
That's an interesting one. Would have liked to have seen a bit more, I guess, organic leadership within the Democrat Party to establish a candidate who a bit more interesting.
Yeah, likewise. It is wild, especially as a Canadian, Hugo. When in the morning, sometimes I'll throw on just whatever like CP24, which is sort of ours. Like it's not good news by any means. In fact, it's quite frankly the opposite. But it's while you're making your morning coffee, just getting ducks in a row to start the day. It's nice to have a little background noise on. And we barely care about our own politics. It's literally all American politics. I don't know if it's similar in Dubai. I don't know if on the local Dubai news shows, the UAE news shows, they're talking about it. But it's pretty wild how the whole world tunes in to American politics, eh? Like how it just sort of dominates the whole news cycle.
Oh, for now, it's the only politics that matters.
You got a good point, especially with crypto. Are you in the same camp as me here in regards to, I think we are going to just sort of chop it up until the election in November. And if Kamala gets in, we might be entering spooky town. And if Trump gets in, everything may rip. I know that's a very easy and sort of, laissez-faire sort of thesis to have. But are you and I in the same camp there?
I think broadly, I think there's some macro stuff going on. I think there's people that think that the Fed is the only thing that matters in crypto. I probably don't take that view quite so much. I think Asia and what's going on with the Asian economies matters quite a lot. See quite a lot of weakness there. So I probably think that, it's not, I wouldn't say the US is the only thing that matters.
Can you, if you don't mind, could you take a little rip on that point for me? I'm very unfamiliar with the Asian market. Obviously, I know they, tons of power, a lot of whales, obviously what, 3 to 4 times the amount of people as the States as well. But why does the Asian market matter so much?
Well, I think, they've been hugely, represented within crypto for a number of reasons. One, they're very, on the whole, tend to be very early adopters of technology, have been a smartphone-based society way before we were. They used to pay with electronic money. And so crypto is much more natural for the bulk of their population. And so if you think of crypto as a consumer product, I'm not sure that's the only way to think of crypto, but if you think of it that way, then it's a consumer product that primarily has much greater appeal in Asia than it does in the West. The West, people tend to own crypto for very almost political reasons. And so that applies less in Asia. And therefore, they own crypto for lots of different reasons, including, being able to circumvent controls on money and things like that. But it's also a way that they tend to have a different attitude than we do in the West to, how they invest, prepared to take slightly riskier investments on the whole in order to further their lot in life. And so Asian economic issues, especially Chinese, tend to have quite a big effect on crypto.
It's a really good point there. This is something that blew my mind. I want to say this was 4 or 5 years ago. One of my Chinese friends in Toronto showed me WeChat for the first time. And I was like, what? Pardon my French, but what the fuck? How do you guys have a super app that literally lets you do everything? Social network, banking / payment rails, online shopping, like social profiles. I swear there was even like your, social credit score baked in. Like we have none of that here. And just to fortify your point again, no one in North America, I guess Mexico is technically, part of North America, but no one in the United States or Canada uses crypto really to like pay each other or for day-to-day transactions. It's really just a store of value, good investing or degenerative investing, which is usually, sort of the first and most used point. But it's just wild. I have friends in Argentina, they use crypto every single day. Friends around the world, they use crypto every single day. If you don't have a very powerful currency like the US dollar, the Canadian dollar is not the greatest, but it's wild to think about like that. Really good point there. But let's jump into your past here. Give us the quick TLDR. How did you get into crypto? Why did you sort of leave the Web 2 world and find yourself in the world of blockchain?
Yeah, so I guess I was never particularly in the Web 2 world. I was a trader at a hedge fund, trading commodities. And I had a couple of very good years, followed by, some meh years. But happens. 2012 was fantastic. 2013, that's great, whatever. But not the end of the world. And that just got to the point where I figured I could do more with my time. I had a hunger to do something that generated sort of a lasting value, a lasting utility. You don't have that at all in finance. You're just chasing money.
You're just printing. You were literally a money printer.
You're either a money printer or you're a money loser, or but either way, either way, it's just. I remember the feeling of my best ever trade. I made a startling return on the capital invested. Really startling. Closed it out, took profits, and on to the next. And I hadn't built anything. And I was, looking around at my the people I was working with, a bunch of, some great people, some less so great people, but didn't really want the life that they had. And I was fairly young at the time. I didn't want to become an alcoholic. Didn't seem like a valuable thing to do in my life. I didn't want to go through like 6 or 7 wives, which also was a common thing. But yeah, so in brief, I figured I'd go and do something else. And I went. My undergrad was in financial engineering and risk. So I had a pretty strong mathematical background. So I went to study machine learning at UCL. With the idea that, come what may, this would be something interesting to study, and certainly was. And that's where I met my co-founders for Flare.
I love that. Tell us the inception story for Flare. And I love the name. I'll throw in why you guys chose the name Flare as well.
So I The name is an interesting one. That's quite a fun one. But I met my co-founders, Dr. Nami Usha, who's is effectively our chief technical officer. She was at UCL, but way above us. She was currently finishing her doctoral at UCL and then became a postdoctoral researcher in quantum machine learning.
Jeez Louise.
And
smart cookie, I take.
indeed, definitely. And then Sean Rowan, who was on my course in machine learning, and really we just got together and figured, well, AI is a very difficult industry to break into as a startup at that time, so around 2017. And we just really went through a whole bunch of areas which we were thinking of. And Sean had built a Bitcoin-like blockchain for inter-vehicle communications on his undergrad. And I had heard about Bitcoin from a number of people in the finance area, specifically in Goldman Sachs. So, I think we started looking at blockchains and started looking at what people were building. I think Ethereum literally just come out not that long before. I think EOS was the big one that really, the big launch didn't really go anywhere. That was quite, interesting to watch. And, we sort of started thinking, well, what are people doing? Why are they doing it? What's the value of decentralization? What's the value of this? I started looking at it from a financial aspect. And we started looking at consensus protocols. So that was essentially where the name Flare came from. We developed a consensus protocol that was meant to be a nested consensus protocol where you'd have lots of essentially different networks, and a network could fire a flare up to a larger network so that another network could understand it. So that name kind of stuck, although we didn't end up building our own consensus protocol. We certainly liked the name enough to keep it.
I love it. So you guys do everything in the sort of, data enrichment and decentralized data space. Some buzzwords, some big words. I'd love if you could sort of explain the problem, just to sort of set the stage for us. The problem with existing oracles. There's tons of, there's hundreds of incredible oracles in the crypto space, in the Web3 space, but the one issue that they have, at least to my knowledge, is the ability to abstract and utilize really good, rich, decentralized data, and then take that and then use it for a multitude of use cases. And I can't explain this problem like you can. I'd love if you could sort of explain the root cause of why this is such a shit show and the solution you guys are providing for this.
I think one of the things that we noticed when we were doing our big research phase before we started was that people are really, really happy to launch quick and dirty solutions because it makes them a lot of money.
That's crypto, baby.
Indeed. But it's not something that serious engineers do. And it's also not something you would do if you had been, ever exposed to risk in finance. It would, looking at the models of existing oracles, why are there issues there? So you've got a couple of things. Firstly, to understand an existing oracle, you have to understand it as an application that is not native to the chain you're using. It's essentially an external service of which the chain, let's say Ethereum or any of the L2s, they have no idea really what, the chain itself knows nothing about the oracle. There's no guarantees that derive from the chain around the oracle. And there's no guarantees how many, whether the oracle will still be part of the service tomorrow. It might be, it might not be. There's no guarantees around how many validators, or what they're not actually validators, they're nodes, are providing you a price. And so what you have with existing oracles is a situation where there aren't clear security guarantees. The situation gets worse when you think between the largest oracle providers, the worst provided price has only 5 nodes that are contributing to that price. That's an extremely small set of people who need to be malicious in order to damage that price. And these oracles are securing roughly $40 billion worth of value securing in inverted commas, because the reality is we've built something worse than TradFi, right? So when I go and put a trade on in TradFi, the people I trade through, they have a legal obligation towards me to give me a fair price. When you're using DeFi, there is no obligation on your Oracle to give you a correct liquidation price or a correct entry price. So fundamentally, what's been built so far is gives you a worse set of guarantees than if you were just using TradFi. And to me, that seems completely berserk.
Yeah.
You know,
it's ass backwards. The whole, we're trying to build a better solution than TradFi.
And so in crypto, you don't have legal guarantees. We don't want legal guarantees. We want software guarantees. We want guarantees that come from the theory and the practice behind decentralization. We want for our systems to be as secure as, proof of stake. And so that's where the idea behind building a layer one, where the oracles are part of the chain and secured in the same way as the chain is secured, really came from. And we have two core oracles. One is called the Flare time series oracle. That's for time series data, which to all intents and purposes is price data. And the Flare data connector. So that's for Web 2 data and Web 3 data. So we can prove onto the chain an event from another blockchain like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and L2, any of the other chains that we're connected to. We can prove an event from Web 2 API, like indeed the outcome of a sporting match or the outcome of the debate. So, we could potentially take the Fox News or the ABC or news scores on the debate, and we could settle something based on the aggregation of those scores. And we can do that on Flare using EVM smart contracts, because it's an EVM layer one. And we can do that where the data is secured by the weight of stake on the network. And this is fundamentally not the case with existing oracles. I challenge anyone to look into the existing oracles and find me a true security mechanism. They don't exist.
Well said. Hugo, you had one line that sort of blew my mind there. TradFi equals legal guarantees. Crypto equals software guarantees. I've never heard that before. It really is all of crypto. Like we write code, and if that code is malicious or has backdoor openings or whatever, or just isn't true, like we're literally letting software sort of depict our future.
If the structure behind it, like if you had a blockchain with only 5 validators and minimal stake at risk, the structure behind it doesn't work, then you can't use it. The point is with our oracles, with our network, is that our data is secured by 67% of our token, which is currently being staked. And you can't really get a better guarantee than that.
Very cool. I'd love if we can go back to the sort of flash time series oracle and the data connector overview. Just so I just want to make sure I have this right. So the flash time series oracle, like you said, is mostly
Flare time series oracle.
Flare time series oracle is mostly for pricing in Web3, and the latter is mostly for traditional data in Web2, right?
I guess break it down a bit further. The Flare time series oracle is for things that don't have a single source, like things that can't be viewed by validators perfectly. So if you think Flare has 100 validators and they each go to Binance or they each go to a stock market API and they look up a particular ticker, they will each see slightly different price depending on when they're viewing that, right? And a lot of this data doesn't have the structure of things like timestamps, so you can't just rely on that.
Gotcha.
So the Flare time series oracle is for data that moves over time. It could be a price, could be a stock price, could be something like weather, could be something like emissions. Anything that basically is non-deterministic. Right. Whereas the Flare data connector is for deterministic or close to basically perfectly observable data, like a Web2 API. So, if I can say how many units of particular item exist in a warehouse at this moment in time, and that those number of units aren't changing, very rapidly, then I can get consensus on that.
Gotcha.
Or if you take an example of Twitter, I can say, does this tweet have over 500 likes? And let's say that tweet has currently 700 likes. It's very probable that the validators are going to be able to come to consensus that this tweet has over 500 likes. So
Gotcha.
those are the kind of things. Again, can I demonstrate, can I come to consensus over, has a particular transaction on Ethereum happened from one address to another? Yes. These are the kind of data items that are available in the FTC.
So cool. Hugo, you're on fire right now, mate, but we do need to take a quick break and give a huge shout out to our sponsor of the show. When we get back, we are going to continue buzzing on everything Flare related. I am a bit of a sports bettor myself. You guys are doing some really cool work in the sports betting space. Really, I mean, that tweet last night was hilarious. We'll jump into that as well. And we definitely need to talk about some of the current limitations in regards to dApps. And then we'll get into Flare's long-term strategy too. Until then, huge shout out to Prime XBT, longtime friends and longtime sponsors of the Crypto News Pod. We love Prime XBT as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet. You can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News Pod. Use the promo code CryptoNews50, that is CryptoNews50, CryptoNews50, all one word, to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. And now back to the show with Hugo. So Hugo, last night, this was literally last night, as I was just doing one last sort of Twitter lurk this morning just to see if I could gather any more ammo for our show today. No free ads on the show, but Bet14 literally tweeted, "Decentralized sports betting, a new era with Flare's data connector. Lock in a bet on an outcome with the odds you choose and be guaranteed settlement under those conditions." And you subtweeted this and just said, "This is such an obvious user case for Flare's FTC. I don't know anything about Bet14 yet, so do your own research." I absolutely love this. How funny is it how crypto works sometimes? You just, you get layups every once in a while. This was obviously nothing planned or anything of the like. You guys are probably in talks with them right now. I'd love if you could talk about how useful the Flare ecosystem is for sports betting in particular, as I do know we got a good amount of folks, good amount of listeners who do dabble in sports betting and would love to learn more about this.
Yeah, I think, it's a very interesting area. It's a very obvious area. It's an area that the FTC serves very well, the Flare Data Connector, because being able to get results is fairly trivial. Not that hard. There's so many, websites and APIs that can be used to get them. So, what Flare solves is the transmission from that API, from that Web2 API, essentially from that API to the chain. It can do that honestly. It can basically, you can send everyone to a particular API or a set of different APIs. So you could use, you can come to consensus over what a particular outlet is saying. Are they saying that Trump won the debate or Kamala won the debate? And you can aggregate maybe from 5 or 6 different sources. So you could aggregate from Fox News, ABC, CNN, whoever is
so cool.
Providing that kind of data. And you can basically get an aggregation across those, and you can essentially agree that ahead of time, because the smart contract can say, okay, this is how we will treat this data. And then that's really a fair way of doing betting. Also, it means that once you've entered into a particular guarantee of odds, you can't go and change the chain history. And so you've got essentially, when I was at university, when I was studying my undergrad, I got quite into sports betting arbitrage, which was a way at that time much less feasible today to get a guaranteed win out of an event, because there was mispricing between various different bookmakers. The biggest risk I had was that a bookmaker would realize they had a mispricing, and they would cancel the bet, and that would mean that I would be exposed on one leg of the bet and had to go and lay it off for a loss somewhere. This is not really a fair way to treat your customers. If you're offering a price, you should honor that
100%.
price. And that's where sports betting, I suppose, on a blockchain comes in, whereby once you fix the price, that's your price. That's what you get, and the collateral is held, on chain against the two parties that are betting, or however many parties that are betting, and you're able to settle that based on high quality data. And so, yeah, it's a completely obvious use case.
Hugo, this literally happened to one of my best mates a couple days ago. It was NFL Sunday, I love NFL Sunday. It was the first one of the year. He hit an 8-leg parlay on anytime touchdown scores. And again, he's a bit of I'm not going to shout him out, but he's definitely a bit of a degen, but he does win most of the time. I'll give him that. He spends a lot of time. He's a math guy. He built his own algos, blah, blah, blah. And he turned $20 into $2,000. And then Bet365. Exactly. Bet365 came back on him and said, we are going to give you your $20 and we're going to give you a $20 credit on top of that. So we're going to nullify the bet and give you a $20 credit. He's like, where's my other $1,960? Like, crazy stuff.
Exactly.
I want to go 1 second though. I'd love for you to tell me about like what sports were you betting on? Were you building this algo yourself? Like how were you doing the arbitrage? If you don't mind giving us the alpha there.
So the algorithm was really not an algorithm. It wasn't statistical. It was a pure calculator. So it was pure arbitrage, not statistical arbitrage. There was some interesting statistical arbitrages you can do, but I didn't do that. It was just a pure, can I make a guaranteed return out of betting on all outcomes of this event? It probably was beneficial, but it was the relatively early days of online sports betting. Yeah. And so the bookmakers were less sophisticated in keeping up with the prices. It was also in the early days of Betfair, which if you know a lot about, say, European sports betting, Betfair is pretty much the equivalent, it's the gigantic equivalent of Polymarket, right?
Oh, wow.
Which is that you would generally assume that Betfair has the true price because it's the most liquid market. Yeah. And that's where you can do some statistical arbitrages if you find a price that's bigger than Betfair. And that's quite fun as well, but totally different. I built essentially a thing that pulled prices, found them, had to go manually check them, and had to log in because I couldn't get around the captchas. So it was fairly manual. But yeah, I think with machine learning now, you could probably get around the captchas and put the bets on, but unfortunately, they're not there as much.
So all sports? Were you doing all sports, just wherever you could find some edge?
Tennis. I was doing bets. I didn't even know what they were.
Like Taiwanese ping pong. Yeah.
I was, and odds systems that, like Asian odds, Asian handicap, all that kind of stuff. Like the things I had no idea a priori that they even existed.
I love that. My just a funny but not funny story. My biggest mess up was I'm born in 95, 29 years old right now. In 2013, my first year of university, I actually went to school for sports management, and we had, a betting club, and we'd win most of the time. A lot of really, really intelligent sports minds who knew a lot about sports, knew some edge, even some guys who had some inside info. And insider info is actually legal in sports betting, which is sort of wild. I want to say I had like 250 Bitcoin in my Bodog account because Bodog used to pay out your bonus in Bitcoin. Now, again, I don't know present day if I even could have got it off. Like, I don't know. It clearly wasn't on chain, but what was I doing? I was trading my Bitcoin, which at the time I want to say was like $3 or $4, and I was just doing quick swaps minus their like 5% fee to Canadian dollars because I was like, well, this is what is Bitcoin? This is a joke. Like this is going to be nothing. So, I mean, I'd be traveling the world right now. But anyways, c'est la vie. You can't win them all. I know everyone's got a story like that, but whenever I think about sports betting, that still haunts me. I'd love to talk about the Google Cloud partnership now. Web3 companies don't usually get in bed with, Fortune 500 companies, let alone, one of the most recognizable and largest companies in the whole world. How the heck did you guys whip this up? Like, did you go to them? Did they go to you? Like, I want to know everything about this. This is so freaking cool.
We had a pre-existing relationship with them because we've been using an awful lot of their cloud services for our own, internal, I guess, systems. And so I don't know, I'm not sure how the conversation really materialized, but at some point someone said to me, would you like to chat to Google Cloud about a partnership? They're interested in running validator. And so I got on the phone with Google Cloud and they said, okay, but we're not like other chains. We're special. And you can't just run a validator. You can't just run a validator. You've got to run a price provider, and you've got to run the FTC when it comes along. And they took a bit of time to get sort of their heads around that. And then Google Cloud are running a validator. They're running a price provider. It's one of the most well delegated to on the network. But they're not special in the system. They're just another validator. In fact, they're pretty good performing, but they're not the best performing. They give prices alongside everyone else, and they'll be giving blockchain proofs alongside everyone else. So they'll be participating in the Flare data connector, to do that. They're obviously well delegated to by nature of the fact that they are Google Cloud. Although we have a cap on delegations, we have a cap on staking, so they can never get too big. And they also can't just spin up an infinite number of additional validators in order to game that system, because we have essentially a committee that consists of the validators that analyzes the prices being put into the network, and it's very, very clear if someone's essentially running two validators, i.e., two price providers, because their prices will be very similar, and then they'll get booted off. So it's
I love that.
spectacular to have Google Cloud, involved in Flare, and we're very fortunate that they want to do business with us, and we're very fortunate that they accept that they're just one of 100 validators, each providing data.
I love that. Who's the biggest, if you don't mind me asking?
So I think in terms of success rate, not so. Sort of don't. I know a little bit about who they are, but they're just I think a relatively enthusiastic group of people who operate a validator. They're obviously technical. They operate a really good price provider. I think they're over delegated to at the moment, so I don't think you can delegate any more to them. And I think they're sort of the biggest in the system currently.
Super cool. Another thing we got to talk about, as we are getting a little tight for time here, is TEE, Trusted Execution Environment. I'm not going to lie, I did a little bit of research on this. This was clearly out of my pay grade, as I didn't fully, completely understand it all. A lot of computation proof, a lot of ZK, optimistic approaches. This is way above my pay grade, not above yours. I'd love if you could give the quick TLDR on what exactly Trusted Execution Environment is.
Okay, but first I'll say why. Trusted Execution Environment is, you use one every day when you look at your phone and it uses Face ID. It's essentially a chip.
Gotcha.
It's part of a chip that's isolated. So it doesn't, it performs in a certain way. The rest of the system doesn't have access to what's happening inside it, so it's secure. And for our purposes, it gives a computation or computational results that can be verified. So it's verifiable compute. And then there's that then leads to the question is, why do you need this? Well, if you can think of Flare as an EVM Layer 1, that's exactly what it is, that brings in data. We actually can bring in way more data than really dApps that are built directly on Flare can handle. In terms of, we could bring in probably 1 million, we could bring in a fairly unbounded number of attestations from Web 2. But you couldn't build a dApp on any chain that could handle being able to process all of those and create a change of state based on all of those kind of things. So you need to be able to, in order to build applications that people really want to use. Think about crypto today, the applications are incredibly basic.
Yeah.
They're not going to get
mass adoption.
7 billion users
Yep.
with the paradigm that exists today. This is not going to happen. Like, you couldn't build a social network that is truly crypto related and gives you much in the way of guarantees, that you couldn't build that on a blockchain.
Well, look what happened to Friendtech. That news broke a couple days ago. Like that was probably one of the leaders for a social network. We struck out there.
Absolutely. So, but the thing is, we want to provide Web 2-like experiences, but with Web 3 guarantees. That's what we want to provide in this space. So, guarantees like not being censorable. It's fantastic that Elon Musk has taken over X and made it more of a free speech platform. But ultimately, if he gets taken down because he's, quite outspoken,
Yep.
he could be replaced, and then it could go back to exactly what it was. Or he can change his mind on any given day about what kind of speech he allows on X, and we can't. None of us can do anything about it. So if you just think about one use case of a social media platform that is truly not censorable, we need to be able to have these very, very big. We need to be able to handle very, very large amounts of compute. To give you just a really simple example, it would cost about $60 million to store a gigabyte on Ethereum. 1 gigabyte.
Wait,
$60 million. $60 million to store
What?
1 gigabyte on Ethereum. About $10 million to store 1 gigabyte on Solana. 27 cents on Google Cloud. We have to find ways to combine the efficiency of the technology that we know that we know powers the world with the trustlessness, the uncensorability of blockchain. TEs are one route to doing that. Other people are working on things like ZK. ZK currently is at least 1,000 times more expensive than the TEE.
Wow.
There's other routes like MPC, but they all have very different. You can't verify what's happening within MPC. So you've got to trust that the MPC solution has been set up in the right way. So ultimately we're going down a TEE route because we think it's the best and fastest and probably the most secure way to be able to get true applications that could get adoption from 7 to 8 billion people, but whilst giving them considerable guarantees from the blockchain.
Hugo, you are episode number 370 on the Crypto News Pod. I thought I've heard of almost everything in the space. This is the first, and my apologies if someone has been on the show and spoke about TEEs before, but I've heard of ZK and heck, half of the episodes here. Why have I never heard of TEEs? Like, why is everyone so horny for ZK tech, but no one's using TEEs if it's 1,000 times cheaper? Like, what's the disconnect there?
I think there's been a critical problem with crypto that you can make a lot of money by investing in infra, especially new-fangled infra with clever people, with clever things. Unfortunately, that hasn't led to adoption. It has led to a lot of people getting very rich. TEEs aren't that sexy. They run in cloud environments. There are ways, and people will throw 100 problems of using a TEE at you. For instance, if you're using a TEE within Google Cloud can turn it off. Okay, cool. It's censorable. So use 10. In different locations. But unfortunately, I think our industry has been very hamstrung by just being able to tell a really good story as opposed to a really good application. What I'm really interested in building, because I think it's critical at this point, especially, we've come so far, but really we also haven't gone anywhere near far enough. I mean, the whole space has stagnated in use cases for a long time now. Yeah. I'm interested in finding a route, and we at Flare are interested in finding a route to give people what they want. And that is great apps with blockchain guarantees. And so I think that's fundamentally why you haven't heard of TEEs.
That was another great line that you said that I will most definitely be stealing and giving you credit for, which is Web 2 experiences with Web 3 guarantees. I love that. I always say looks and feels like Web 2, run on Web3 or, Web3 backend.
It'll take 10 years before ZK is anywhere close to touching that. We don't have 10 years.
And you and I assume you and I are in the same camp here that in order for us to go mass adoption, we will need some type of absolutely beautiful consumer-facing app. It's got to be that.
Absolutely.
Right?
You can't just make everything based around money. Like, people are not sufficiently interested in decentralized money that it's going to become mass adoptable. You have to give them something they're interested in.
You need some FOMO. You gotta do some FOMO.
I think like, the prediction markets within crypto have been extremely instructive because they aren't, perfect. They don't function anywhere near as well as Betfair, but they are very, very, they have been shown that they are leading towards adoption. And I think, it's the first thing outside of pure DeFi that I feel truly looks and feels and smells like adoption. And I want to see a hell of a lot more than that because we've got to get past this. Let's just iterate further and further and further on DeFi because we're just iterating ourselves into a corner that no one cares about.
Well said. I love it. Hugo, what an episode. This was absolutely incredible. Flare, what's next for you guys? Again, this episode's going to air in a couple days on Monday the 16th. Anything popping off over the next couple days, weeks, months?
I mean, we just upgraded our Oracle. We're just about to, we've been running our trustless bridge program or in beta on our testnet. So it's a trustless bridge for Bitcoin and XRP, truly trustless, secured by collateral, over collateralization, way greater guarantees than the existing bridge mechanisms. We're doing a hackathon with Google Cloud in November on TEEs. There's 3 tracks. We're doing it, I think, in California, but it'll be available broadly for people to participate, from wherever they are. We're very excited about that. We're very excited about what comes out of that. We have some big prizes. So, if you're an engineer, please do, look that up and join it.
Amazing. And lastly, where can our listeners find you personally and, of course, Flare online and on socials?
So I think for me, X is the best place. At Hugo Philion. Flare is flare.network. That's our website, and Flare Network on X. We have Discord. We have numerous Telegram groups. But go to our website. Well, there's also so many scams. So go to our website and make sure you join the right one.
100%. Hugo, what an episode. This was truly one of the best ones, and I got some homework to do. I will be going on a nice long walk in the forest, and I'll be re-listening to this one, and the notepad will be ripped out, and I got some homework to do. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Well, if you have any questions, ping me.
You got it. Really appreciate you coming on, and open invite for round 2, and hopefully we can meet in person someday as well.
Thank you so much.
Folks, what an episode with Hugo Philion, co-founder of Flare. We touched everything: mass adoption, rich and decentralized data, off-chain compute, some sports betting, integrating a little bit of AI and Web2-like experiences with Web3 guarantees, TradFi, legal guarantees, crypto equals software guarantees. So much fun. Everything was touched here. What an episode. Huge shout out to Hugo and the team for making this happen. If you guys enjoyed this one, I hope you did. Please do subscribe. It would mean the world to the team and I. Speaking to the team, love you guys. Thank you so much for everything, especially you, Stas. You are the man. Love you. And back to the listeners. Keep on growing those bags and keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy. Love you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Ciao.